Hello, welcome to my show, Olio. My name is Susan Rushton, and I have to, as always, explain what oleo means. One definition is that it's short for olla podrida, which is Spanish for rotten bowl or rotten pot, which I just get such a kick out of. It has essentially everything in the world in it. Pork in all its iterations, pig's ears, pig's feet, bacon, pork, sausage, chicken, chickpeas, onions, garlic, what else? Carrots, beans, pig's ears. Essentially, as I said, everything in the world except Reese's Pieces and blackberries. That's one definition. Another definition is that oleo is what comes in between acts of a melodrama. So you might have somebody juggling, you might have somebody singing, you might have somebody doing a skit, and none of it has anything to do with anything else, and none of it has anything to do with the melodrama. So in other words, it's apples, oranges, and a monkey wrench. So welcome to my monkey wrench. Today my guest is a gentleman I met when I was, well, I need to start over again. My guest is John Akers, who is Executive Director and Senior Chaplain for the Placer County Law Enforcement Chaplaincy.
Correct.
Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome.
John, I never can get straight how I met you. I was taking this 13-week class through the police department.
Right, through Auburn, they have like a leadership Auburn, I guess is what it is, where they bring you in, they talk about the law enforcement, the police department, how it works, and I come in and speak at that every time they do that because we are an aspect of law enforcement. We work in an ancillary way next to them. And that kind of gets into what we do. You know,
yes.
I've told you before, and I say when I talk to people that we're the best kept secret in Placer County, and the reason for that is that people don't use our services until they really need us. In other words,
until they're in trouble.
Right, we show up in the worst day of your life.
For example?
Well, for example, we are called by law enforcement. We serve every law enforcement agency in Placer County. That would include Auburn PD. So
CHP, Auburn PD, the Sheriff's Office.
Sheriff's Office, DA's Office, FBI, Parks,
okay.
All the law enforcement agencies. And whenever there is death...
Necessarily death.
We do, I hate to say it, but we do death. That's what we do.
Okay, all right.
So when there's a homicide or a suicide or a coroner's case, and a coroner's case is an unattended death.
Mm-hmm. Like a traffic accident.
Or like you wake up in the morning and your husband's died in the middle of the night.
Oh, God.
And so what happens is you call 911,
yeah.
They get there, dispatch will call our answering service, and then we'll get a chaplain out there to work with you to help you through the process, to explain to you, all right, here's what's going to happen next. This is what law enforcement is going to do. So we'll work right alongside the coroner, and we'll stay there with you as long as you need us. To get some support to you, to explain the coroner's procedures, to help you get a mortuary to come pick up the body, because that's part of what takes place. Mm-hmm. Explain to you then what's going to happen after that. And whatever your needs are, and we're kind of like triage. We're there for a couple hours until we get you a good support system. And once that support system has arrived, then we'll leave our card and some information, and we walk out of your life. And so we're only there during that first terrible couple hours, mm-hmm. like triage, like an emergency department, helping you through this event. Because when we'll walk into your home, you're going to be there, like most
devastated,
people, with this 1,000-mile stare, in
yeah.
shock, not knowing what's happening next. And we do
now,
the same. Okay.
I want to interrupt you. You have this gentle voice. You have a gentle face.
Well, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And so I can imagine those are two of several things that caught you, that brought you into the chaplaincy.
Well, it's interesting. I was a pastor, and
okay.
so I dealt with death. And I had a friend that was assistant police chief of an agency. And he said, John, we have chaplains that go out and work with officers. And I knew a bunch of officers. Good friends with different people in different departments, and I liked working with them. And they said, you'll go out and you'll work with them, which is another part of what we do. I'll explain that later. But you'll also be going out and when people die and being there for them. And so that's how I got into that business 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. 7 years ago, I came over here to run our department that has 55 volunteer chaplains.
55 chaplains. Countywide?
Countywide,
okay.
Because we go from Tahoe all the way down to where we touch into
Lincoln,
Sacramento,
yeah.
and every law enforcement agency, including the ones in the Tahoe,
Right.
Truckee Basin. And we spend 12 to 14,000 hours every year on scene. So that means we are
In the best of all possible worlds, there wouldn't be a need for a chaplain.
Well, you know,
Because everybody
if
dies.
people didn't
Yeah,
die.
yeah.
And,
Okay.
and people
But 12
died
to 14,000 hours every year.
every year. And so we're there for suicides. It could be a mom comes home and finds her daughter dead in the bedroom, and they call 911, of course, 911, and everyone shows up, and we're there, and we're just there to assist them, to help them get through this crisis, because a lot of people really don't know what to do. They don't talk about death. Most people aren't prepared for it. And when it happens, it's a shock, and we usually walk in, or almost always walk in, when it's a sudden death. So it's something that was not expected, suicide, homicide, fatal accident, and we spend the time necessary to work with families.
Also, I saw on the this video online that you say is accessed through placerchaplains.com.
Correct.
It's a video that explains what you're explaining to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, the police officers can work with you.
Well, that's half of our job. Half of our job is working with the public. We assist law enforcement by being what they cannot be on scene. Law enforcement shows up, they have to investigate. They have to do their job, and when they're done investigating, they have to leave.
Just the facts, ma'am.
That's
Yeah,
right. And they
yeah.
have to leave to go to other calls. They care about these families. Law enforcement cares very deeply about these families that have had this type of tragic incident happen. They know that we're going to stay there and be with this family for as long as they need us. And so they're able to leave knowing that we're there helping them, which they cannot do because they have another job. We do death notifications. We're the unfortunate people that will knock at your door at 3 a.m. Let's say your husband or daughter or son was killed in an auto accident. We show up with law enforcement, knock on your door, 2 a.m., come in, sit you down, and very bluntly tell you the loss that's happened, that your son or daughter or husband or wife has been killed in an auto accident. Law enforcement does not like to do that. They're not trained for it, except for maybe coroner's deputies. And so for us to be able to come in and do that with them, knowing what we're doing and how to do it in a way that is helpful to whoever it is we're talking to. So they have a great benefit for us doing death notifications also. And then we come in separate cars, and so when they're done, when the notification has been given, and they give all the facts they can, case number and who to call in the coroner's office and all that, they leave. We stay. And they know that we stay, and we're going to stay there as long as we are needed. That can be for 2 hours or sometimes 7 or 8 hours, depending on the need of the family. We don't leave until we're satisfied that we're no longer needed.
Do you ever have the opportunity to talk to cops about their problems?
Well, that's another part of what we do. We have two types of chaplains. We have community chaplains, which spend almost all
you
of
would
their
talk
time.
to me if my husband found my husband dead.
Sure, and they will be talking to you. We also have law enforcement chaplains who do that work, but also we jump into cars with officers. Because we are a nonprofit, all right, and that we're not affiliated with any law enforcement agency, their conversation with us does not go anywhere. We're not part of their department.
Okay.
And also we have protected privilege because our law enforcement chaplains are licensed or ordained, which means any conversation they have with us is just like talking to your pastor.
Okay.
So anything they say to us does not go anywhere. And so we can jump in the car with them and just ride around and after a while have conversations. And if they have questions or they have some needs, we're there to listen. And our counsel mostly is just being there and listening because it gives them an opportunity to talk about what's going on. I'll get a call.
Without judgment, without
we're there to help. We're there to listen and do what we can to direct if they're asking for direction. But we're not there to preach. We're there to just be an ear for them and a place where they can bounce off ideas or thoughts or frustrations. And they can be frustrations at home, it could be frustration with friends, it could be maybe a frustration within the department. And we're there to listen, and they know it's not going anywhere. So I can have someone like the sheriff or undersheriff or a police chief or a captain give me a call, and they'll say, John, I've got an officer that's really going through a hard time. Would you get one of your chaplains to go jump in a car with them? And we'll do that, and we'll just ride with them. And more often than not, because they've learned to trust us, we'll have a conversation, and we're able to be there and offer some counsel.
Wow.
And a listening ear. But also, when there's something tragic has happened, like a officer-involved shooting or line-of-duty death, We also do debriefs for the people that were involved. And the process we take them through, we have a team of people who are certified and trained in doing critical incident stress management. And so we'll sit down with officers.
Critical what stress management?
Critical incident stress management.
Okay.
And we do a thing called a CISD, which is a critical incident stress debriefing. It follows a process, and we bring in the people that were involved in an incident, and then we will work through a process with them. It's mostly an educational process about here's what you can expect. You've been through a traumatic event. Here's how you can be thinking. Here's how it will affect you physically, emotionally, mentally. Here's how you can take care of yourself. Here's how you can watch out for each other. And we give them a chance to explain their perspective on the event. And just by the conversation and the educational process, it relieves a lot of the stress, the post-traumatic stress that comes from any type of incident, and is very helpful for them. And we've done literally hundreds of those for the various departments within this county.
Yeah. Wow.
So we work both sides. We work with law enforcement and we work with families.
With the public. Okay. So clearly you've talked about this. You have your words are so you know what you're talking about, and you've talked about it a lot. Does this clearly the stress level for cops and the stress level for people who must endure crimes against their family or tragedies is great. Also, oops, your thing fell down. Oh well, okay. Also, the stress must be great for the chaplains.
It is. We vet our chaplains very well. In other words, they go through a year-long process before they ever become a chaplain.
A year-long process?
Yes. There's an interview process with me to make sure they're there for the right reason. They have to be recommended from a faith community that says we've seen these people, they have a lot of integrity, we've watched them work with people before, they do a good job. They have to have that type of recommendation before they even sit down with me. I'll sit down with them and do an interview to make sure I understand where they're coming from. They might want to be there for the excitement. Oh, great, we get to be on scene with the cops behind the yellow tape and red and blue lights flashing. That's exciting, and it can be, but that can't be the motivation.
No.
So after that, they go through a 16-week academy that they pay for. So they have to come up with some money up front. During that 16 weeks, they learn about what we do, everything of what we do. They learn about law enforcement, coroner's procedures, processes, how mortuaries work. They learn a lot about trauma, about how to deal with trauma, grief care, all of this. At the end of that 16 weeks, I sit down with them again and make sure this is something they really want to do. By then, they've discovered this is not something you just kind of do on the side. There has to be a commitment to it because you're going to walk into people's lives on the worst day of their life, and you have to be calm and collected and not be sucked into it. You can't let it become your tragedy because it's not. It's theirs. They have to have that type of temperament and that ability to do that. They have to understand that and still want to do it. And if I decide and they decide that they need to go forward, they go through a full background investigation with the sheriff's office. There's 26 pages that investigates every aspect of your life, every place you lived, every employer, every spouse, your bank accounts, everything, and they will check you.
This is not just a fly-by-night idea or just somebody off the street, hey, I'm ready.
No. And after that, if they pass, and they have to pass that background check by the sheriff's department, then we put them on the street for 30 hours minimum with other chaplains going to calls. And they are evaluated at the end of each call. And so I get those evaluations, and they're using, it's kind of like an FTO program with the police department, field training.
Okay.
And they get out there and they learn by being with someone, and we want to make sure they go to a variety of calls, suicides, 1144s, which are natural deaths that are unattended, or maybe a fatal accident or something like that. And then at the end of that, I go through all their evaluations, and we decide at that moment if they're ready to become a chaplain. And so that's a 1.5 year commitment of time and money because they pay for their academy, they pay for their uniforms, and they use their gas when they're going to go out on a call. And so it takes committed people who understand. Now, knowing that, they still are affected by the trauma. And so we work very hard to have a system in place within our organization where we take care of each other. I have some people that come in from the outside, and every once in a while just to do kind of a debrief for everybody. But also we have resources for them, for people they can go talk to. And we have a thing we call in our organization sharing pie. Like we can call up someone and says, I need to get together for pie and coffee. And that just means we need to get together and talk about an incident I was involved with, and I'm struggling with it. And so there's a lot of ways in which we take care of each other. I watch the number of calls people are going out on, and sometimes I'll let them know they need to take a step back,
A break,
and get off call for a while. And if it looks like a particularly
What if just because of the number of calls?
Number or type?
Okay, because you know what a human being is capable
and some
of,
calls,
and how things affect humans.
And more calls are more difficult than others. Some of the worst calls I've had is telling children that their parents are dead. And those are difficult type of calls.
Yes.
I had one where a law enforcement officer was murdered. I had spent time with the wife, and the children were in bed. It was like 3 in the morning. I had to call down a 13-year-old, 12-year-old, and a 6-year-old to bring them down and let them know that their father had been murdered.
Oh.
And those are difficult calls.
Yes.
Those stress out everybody. Law enforcement hates calls with children because it pulls on them more than anything else. And so the type of calls our chaplains go on, I watch and monitor. And if it looks like there was something that was, I hate to say it, that wasn't just a normal type of call. Because to us, normal is someone just died, and we go and we help a family, and when we're done, we leave. And we're not necessarily affected by that because we've done what we can to serve them. We find it a privilege to serve them. In fact, when I talk to my chaplains a lot of times when I think it's a bad call, I say, how'd it go? And they said, well, it was a great privilege to be able to help this family during this time. They felt really honored to be able to be there. And so...
Because it was so...
Because they could help somebody at a very terrible time.
And, okay.
So they walk away not being stressed, but feeling very grateful that they were able to help this family out during a very difficult time. But sometimes it can be a difficult call. Maybe it reminds them of a parent, their own child, or this person you're working with, a dead child, looks just like yours, or a granddaughter, grandson. And it can just cause difficulty. And so we take care of each other, and we'll give them time off if they need it. But we've had people who have been doing this 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 years.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm thinking about people watching this.
All right.
Discovering Auburn's, Placer County's best-kept secret.
Okay.
Is it, so now they know about the chaplaincy program, and that if they are a victim, or they know or if they find a dead body or their loved one is dead, that a chaplain will come with the policeman.
Right. They will be called out, and there are times when someone says we don't want a chaplain.
Okay.
Right, they'll sit there, oh, we don't want anybody religious, we're not religious. And the officer usually explains, well, we're not offering religion, we're offering trauma.
That seems clear.
Right, we're offering trauma care.
Right.
But we've showed up, and people say, no, we don't need you. And we go, okay, we're going to sit out in our car for a little bit and do some paperwork and make some phone calls. And so, and if you do need us or have a question, we'll be out there for a little while. And sometimes we have people come out and go, can you come back in? We have a question. So we'll go in and answer their questions for them. Now, but we don't get called out, though, by you. If someone died in your home, you don't call us. Law enforcement, you call 911. Law enforcement shows up.
Good. That was going to be my next question. You could see that coming.
Then calls us.
So it is not something that a private person does. A private person does
normally.
Normally.
Because there are exceptions always.
For example.
All right, last night we had 5 chaplains at a Pee Wee football team whose coach died in the middle of practice. Okay, and so they were very affected by it, the parents, the children, and the rest of the coaches, and of course the family of the coach that died. They asked us to come out when they were bringing everyone together to kind of help them work through the process of dealing with that. And so we were called by someone who was aware of what we do. And we have a lot of work with schools that way. A high school student gets killed in a car accident. We work with the student resource officer. We contact the school.
Let the kids know.
And if the school wants, we will come and help them develop a plan to work with the students and be there for them, and work with the staff to help them do what they need to do to help their students. And we'll work that way. So sometimes we will be called by a school that we've worked with before. Or sometimes, and it's rare, a business who knows about us. Let's say someone committed suicide on their property, one of the cubicles, which has happened, and the people are stressed out. And so we'll come in and kind of work with the groups. We've had that with suicides, where we come in and did kind of a debrief, like I explained before, with the staff, and sit down and help them work through the process of their grief and how it's affecting them, what it's going to be like now to come back to this office where this took place.
Yeah.
They had to clear out all the stuff. It's going to jog their memories, and so we help educate them about how best to take care of themselves and each other. But most of the time, 99% of the time, law enforcement's involved. They call us.
Yeah.
Or some type of first responder. We'll get called by fire departments also. And sometimes AMR.
Yeah,
that's
the
out
ambulance
there.
people. Okay.
Right. And so, but it's that way. So something tragic happens, law enforcement shows up, law enforcement lets the dispatcher know, send a chaplain out, they call us, we show up.
Okay. Now, why do you do this?
Why do I do this? Why do I do this personally is like I said, I got called by a friend of mine and said, why don't you come,
and
come do this?
And you said yes, but why do you
yes.
continue?
It's for two reasons. I really love what law enforcement does. Law enforcement are the ones that put on a gun and a Kevlar vest to go to work. Mm-hmm. All right? They're the ones that stand the gap on my behalf. They keep me safe. That's their job. It's a very difficult job. This is a way in which I can support what they do. I can help them do their job so they can have a healthy retirement, a good career, and when they're done, they have a long, productive life, not full of post-traumatic stress. So if we can help them out, that's good. But also, it's an opportunity to serve people during a difficult time. The places that we go are places people don't even want to talk about. They don't want to talk about, if they don't know what to say to people. If someone's daughter commits suicide, what are you going to say to them? And so they avoid that. So we have an opportunity, and our people have an opportunity to go in and serve someone at a very difficult time. I have one chaplain that says, we show up on the worst day of your life, and he says, I want it to be the best worst day of their life they could have. In other words, to make it as easy as possible. It's always a horrendous thing.
Yes.
But if we can in some way alleviate it and make it a little better.
Could be made easier.
Yes, and so that's why we do what we do.
Okay. Time is passing, and I know we have a few minutes left, but I want badly to make it clear that the Placer County Law Enforcement Chaplaincy is a non-profit organization, a 501c3. You would love to have people's donations.
I would. You can go to our webpage, and there's a place to donate. We do fundraisers, a couple fundraisers throughout the year. We just did a blues and barbecue that we do every year. We did our 7th annual one. Ed Bonner's been the host of it.
I missed it.
Oh, you did.
Where was it? When was it?
We do it at High Hand. Scott Owens, the DA, he cooks for us. And we have a blues guy that shows up and gives us time. We have a great time. But, you can donate directly. Law enforcement donates for us. Sometimes inside they have places they can donate within their own work, and we get donations. Different agencies, like 1035, which are a nonprofit also, which helps law enforcement, they'll donate to us. Mm-hmm. Deputy Sheriff Association, different police organizations. But most of our funding comes from people in the community.
And if we have the Big Five, no. Day of Giving. Big dog. Big day of giving.
And we're part of that. We're part of United Way. We also write grants. I write grants. Part of my job as executive director is I'm the grant writer, going out there and trying to write grants. And so half of my job is running the organization. Mm-hmm. The other half is making sure we have an organization to run.
Yes.
And so a lot of what I do is fundraising, talking like this to different organizations. Talk to Kiwanis. If you're a part of Kiwanis or any organization that'd like to have me come speak, I'd love to do it. And get out there and tell about what we do.
You can tell he's a good speaker. So it wasn't through Leadership Auburn. It was learn everything about Placer, about Auburn Police in 13 weeks. Right. 13 Wednesdays.
Kind of like their Police Academy for Citizens.
Yes, Police Academy for Citizens. Yes, and that's where I learned, I met you and heard about the chaplaincy. Although I had been at an event that we were expecting a woman to come lead this event, and instead a chaplain showed up.
Oh, it was a good experience.
It was she had died in a traffic accident, and the chaplain it was a surprise to see her,
Right.
but she appeared at the right time and smoothed things
Good,
for
good.
us.
Well, that's our job, is to smooth things for you, to make it as best as
Yeah.
it can be. And there's no way to give bad news. Bad news is always bad news. There's no way to tell someone that someone they love has died. It's bad news.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've had to do it with a homicide lately, and had to bring in the children of the person that was murdered and tell the children that they lost a parent. There's no good way ever to do that.
No.
But if we can do it in such a way that lessens the pain a little bit and helps them out and we give them some resources for follow-up, which we do. We leave a lot of resources for people at places they can call, support places where they can have other organizations that can do long-term support or counseling or something like that. We
Yeah.
leave them those resources. So if we can help them, we will. That's what we're there for. But there is no way to give bad news.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always bad.
So there's also no way for a person just automatically to become involved with the chaplaincy.
No, it's a process.
Except that you would always be delighted to.
On our webpage, when you go to placerchaplains.com, there's a place there where you can actually fill out some information, and we'll get back to you about our academies when they're coming up and
Okay.
what it means. So if they want to get involved, there's places on our webpage where they can contact us, ask questions, ask me to come speak. They can donate directly. Always
Yeah.
glad to have people do that.
Okay.
And it is a tax write-off because we are a 501c3. We do get a tax
That
write-off
works.
for supporting us.
Okay.
And so we'll take. I'll take any opportunity to talk about what we do, because I believe what we do really matters.
Yes.
It's important to law enforcement and to the community.
Great. Well, John, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yes, you're welcome. And thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.